Hey guys, so in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to use proper grouping to create hierarchy and to make your layout look more organized. We're gonna be making a simple order card for tacos, and as you can see I already have all of my elements on the screen. So we're not gonna create everything from scratch here. I already have a card, I already have a background and a photo. So the point here and the goal here is to organize it to make it look better and to be more readable. And of course there is more than one way to organize this stuff, so I'm just showing you the principle. It's not the only good way to do it. And I'm doing this in Figma, but normally I work in Sketch and it works just the same in any tool. I'm gonna keep this tutorial pretty short because the point here is not to do a complete step by step. The point is to show you the principle so then you can start playing around with this yourself. And the more you play around with this, the more natural it comes to you to set up the grouping and the hierarchy. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna start by creating the card structure. So I'm gonna round the top two corners of the photo to 12 points, and then I'm gonna move it closer to the main card. The corners of the card are also rounded by 12 points, so I'm just gonna drag it underneath the photo. And obviously you can use a mask here as well, but this is not the point of this tutorial. Alright, before we get to any organizing, let's change the default Roboto font to something that looks better. And if you need some font inspiration, I'm gonna link an Instagram post that we made that shows you a couple of really nice choices. I'm gonna go with Sophia Pro. And as the product name is the most important defining feature of it, it's gonna be bold, but most of the other fonts I'm gonna keep it medium or regular for now. Now thinking about this further, we need to divide all the content that we have into groups that belong together. And there are many ways to do it. For example, the name of the product can be a group with the price. And since the delivery cost actually influences the price, it might be also a good idea to include it really close to the price. But that's only one way of looking at it, because we can also group the name with the type of the product and all the additional information, and then the price could be grouped with the add to cart button. And let's try something like this now. So I'm gonna create two distinct groups. One is gonna be the name, the categories, the description and all the extra information about the salsas, and then the other one will be all about ordering and the prices. So first I'm gonna create some background for the categories so they're not gonna look as generic as just text. And to make it fit the entire scheme of this screen, I'm gonna pick a darker color from the background color, and then I'm gonna decrease the brightness just a tiny bit. Okay, now let's round the corners and let's move our text in. Okay, here's one more trick. Don't leave the font color to be just pure black, because it's gonna be boring and they're gonna clash a little bit due to high contrast. So to have text that matches the background very well, pick the same color that the background has for your font as well, and then decrease the brightness. We're gonna do alignment later, so for now just duplicate it and create all the other categories. Okay, it's looking way better already. So now let's increase the font size for the description to about 16 points and pick the same font color that we used for the categories. And while we're at it, you can copy that font color and add it to all of the dark fonts. And that includes the main title, but because it's the most important part here, make it a little bit darker than the rest. Now for the salsas I'm gonna use a similar concept that we did in the categories. But this time those pill-shaped buttons are gonna be outlined and not filled. And I'm gonna pick a color for every outline to show the type of salsa. And of course all the text in our pill-shaped buttons here for both the categories and the salsas is completely misaligned, and it shouldn't really be like that. But for now I just wanted to see how it's gonna look like in general, and once we're happy with the result we can start aligning. But first let's create our main call to action button, because obviously add to cart can't really be a small text link at the bottom. So I'm creating a standard rectangular button shape. I'm gonna fill this with a gradient coming from one darker shade of red towards a lighter shade of red, so I'm gonna first pick the red that we already have in the font, and then I'm gonna pick a different shade of red for the other side of the gradient. And as usual I'm gonna make it slightly diagonal. Now let's move in the call to action text and of course make it bigger because it's the important action here. Now for clarity I'm gonna divide this section into three main groups. One is gonna be the title with the categories, the other one is gonna be the description with the salsas, and then the last one is gonna be the prices and the call to action button. I'm gonna keep the main margin at 24, so I'm using the red square method here to create our safe space. Now we already used some colors and some font sizes to define hierarchy, but then you can also use the same principle of proximity, so things that are closer together belong together. So my first two groups are actually gonna be grouped closer to each other, and then there's gonna be a much bigger gap between them and the pay group. And of course these are some very quick changes, so it's not very polished, but that's not the point here. The point is to show you how to group things to create some hierarchy and to make it actually look like it's an organized piece of data. Now I'm gonna use a similar method to align the text inside our pill-shaped buttons. So I'm gonna check the bottom and the top distance from inside the pill to the text, and then I'm gonna use double the distance for the sides. And then they're gonna be 4 points apart because we're on an 8-point grid, so it's just gonna be half a unit. Now using the proximity rule, I'm gonna align the baseline of the font to those pill-shaped buttons. The rule is simple: the spacing between groups should always be bigger than the spacing within the group. So going top to bottom, I'm applying the same rules everywhere. I'm changing the salsa text to actually match the color of the pill and aligning everything. And of course you can use that same rule to align the text in the button as well. And there you have it, a very quick exercise that allows you to group items and create visual hierarchies, so the layout is going to be more readable and easier to look at. And of course you can refine it further, but for now I'm just going to add some decoration to the background. And while we're at it, I'm going to fix the typo as well. And of course we can also try and see how the card would look like if it was made in glassmorphism. So I'm gonna duplicate the entire frame, and then I'm gonna add the glassmorphism effect to the background of the card. And if you want to learn how to do glassmorphism, I also had another tutorial that I'm gonna link in the description of this video. It also includes some tips on how to make those background spheres and how to add really nice soft shadows to them. And as a bonus, I'm gonna use a very small dark red shadow in our call to action text. It's gonna make it pop a little bit more. And of course there's plenty more that you can refine here to make it look even better. But this exercise was all about grouping things and creating the visual hierarchy to make the layout more readable. So basically it was all about combining the chaotic into the readable. And knowing proper grouping is important if you want the layout to be easy to understand. Our brain, when it's looking at a new thing, is always looking for patterns. So if we provide those patterns, it's gonna make it a lot easier. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. And if you plan to follow this tutorial, make sure to share it with me later. I'm happy to see it.